He threw his arm around my shoulders and yelled, "Cousin bonding time!" In that moment, he changed my life. But let me back up to the beginning of this story. Introducing my cousin, Brian Bonk. He's 27 years old, rides motorcycles, adores his dog, and is up for whatever. He's the kind of guy that everyone wants to be around, easily described as the life of the party. He walks into a room and everyone leans back and says, "Hey, Brian, what's up?" But his life hasn't been as free and easy as he would let on. When he was a teenager, he lost his mother to a drunk driver. She had been very lax on discipline and gave Brian and his sister a lot of freedom. When she died, Brian's dad came down hard on them, and he was especially tough on Brian. Brian's teen years were difficult, and his behavior caused him to frequently change high schools. Yet, he eventually joined the Army and served his country. After being discharged, he bought a house and started to settle into his life. Albeit he is constantly changing jobs. I think his record is staying with a company for 6 months. He invariably has a sensational story to explain the switch. This year he worked as a garbage man. One day, a man with some sort of complaint chased a truck, opened the door, and grabbed Brian's leg. "Well," Brian later recounts, "he touched me. He shouldn't have done that." Brian fought with the guy and, pinning him to the ground, kept repeating, "Say you're sorry. Say you're sorry." The police came and, not surprisingly, he soon moved on to another job. He may have tattoos and motorcycles, but I think the most striking thing about Brian is that he has such a huge personality. I think that's why people are so drawn to him. Now my dad's side of the family, the Bonk side, goes on a yearly family reunion camping trip with 100 plus of my relatives. We reserve a big group campsite at Lake Shelbyville in southern Illinois, and everyone brings tents and campers. For 5 days there's boating, tubing, skiing, wakeboarding, swimming, etc., and then an enormous campfire in the evening that actually lasts well into the morning. The whole family looks forward to the campout and spends months preparing. I lived for these campouts. Then, in 8th grade, my life changed drastically as I struggled with a serious health problem. When it came time for the campout, my physical limitations frustrated me to no end, and I spent a significant amount of time just crying in the camper. The rest of my family was having a great time, and I just wanted to go to bed. Brian was in the Army and couldn't come that year. The next year, at the next campout, I was still struggling with my health. Expecting more of the same, I spent my time talking to my relatives as they headed to and from the lake. Then Brian arrived. He hopped out of his truck, already wearing swim trunks, and made a beeline toward the lake. Then he saw me. Without hesitation, he abandoned his plans of ramping waves on the jet skis and lazily floating on the water. He threw his arm around my shoulders and yelled, "Cousin bonding time!" In that moment, he changed my life. Brian spent the whole week with me. He sat and talked with me on shore while the others went skiing. He sat next to me at the campfire and, knowing that I was having bad headaches, yelled at people who were being too loud. And everyone wanted to be around Brian, so everyone spent time with me too. I was included in anything the family was doing and didn't cry in my camper once. I began to believe that, despite my medical problems, I could still have a fun time and a great life, because he made sure I had a great time at the campout when nobody else bothered. Now, every time we're together, it's cousin bonding time. But Brian's story left a deep impression upon me. I learned that you don't have to be a doctor or a lawyer for people to look up to and respect you, and what you do with that is important. From the outside, he's a big guy with tattoos of skulls and sometimes a huge beard. But on the inside, he's the guy that, in cousin bonding time, really made my life better. His story showed me that it's not what you look like, it's what you are like.